Hello guys, my name is Nicolai Montedala. Today we will be presenting with the presentation on the course project in Data Communications and Networking 4. Greetings, this is Nikolai. We will be presenting on our course project in Data Communications and Networking 4, the last part. Our selected topics are point-to-point collections, branch connections, and access control lists. Ready for our presentation? Let's go for it. Point-to-point connections. The meaning of point-to-point connections. It is a closed network data transport service which has no way of traversing into the public internet and made of inherent security, which is no need to encrypt data. It is linked with a permanent direct communication in the middle of two parties, a connection of two locations together via a private dedicated line. Serial point-to-point connection. As you can see, it is the way to make point-to-point connection between network connections which is established. From LAN to WAN, it is a reference into serial connection slash leased line connection. Point-to-point communication links. In a point-to-point communication, this is the channel for sharing between two devices. Then the line configuration is method, meaning how the pair of communication devices are into link connection. Serial bandwidth. As a bandwidth, it is referred to the rate into data transfer over the communication link. As a serial connection bandwidth, it is the increase of accommodation in the needed transmission in high speed. What are those WAN protocols? The protocols are HTLC, PPP, Serial Line Internet Protocol or SLIP, X.225/Link Access Procedure Balanced, LAPB, Frame Real High-Level Data Link Control. These are the protocols that has been grouped or instructed a transmission of data between network points. It is the delivery in the provision of reliable delivery of data frames above a network or communication link. PPP, point-to-point protocol. It is a TCP/IP protocol, which is the use of connection into an individual computer system to one another. Serial Line Internet Protocol or SLIP. It is the protocol which TCP/IP in use when through a serial connection is operational. X.25 Link Access Procedure Balanced, LAPB. It is a data link layer protocol which communication and packet framing between DTE and DC devices are manageable. Frame relay. It is a protocol which means how fast frames are in a route through a fast packet network based on its address field inside the frame. It is the advantage of the reliability of data communications network, which is the minimization of error, checking successfully done by the network nodes. ATM or asynchronous transfer mode. As a transfer mode, it switches and transmits that is efficient and balanced in organization of information into cells. Example of link control protocol or LCP. In PPP, point-to-point protocol, network component is the core component, and it is the control in the features of any layer 3 protocol if specified. Example of network control protocol or NCP. As an NCP, it allows for computer and devices access and use at remote locations and a transmission for files between computers. Keywords in PPP frame structure. What are those 6 fields in the PPP frame? They are flag. As a field, it beckons and closes with a regular HDLC flag. Address. In those basics, it is a broadcast address. Control. It uses format of view frame throughout the basics. Protocol. It is the basic identification of the network protocol of the datagram. Data. It is the usual containment in the datagram above the upper layer. Frame check sequence. FCS. The checksum has been contained and identifies for those errors. How to establish a PPP session. In those several LCP options, what are those? Authentication, password authentication protocol, and challenge handshake authentication protocol are two choices to authenticate it. Compression, an increase of the throughout, an decrease of the effective throughout on PPP connections in the amount of bits reduction and that must travel across the link. Error detection, an identification of fault conditions. PPP callback, the enhancement of security. Multi-link, as an alternative, it is the provision of load balancing over the router interfaces that is used by PPP. Ways of LCP operation. As an LCP operation, the three ways are provided with link establishment, link maintenance, and link termination. Those three mean link establishment frames, establishment and configuration for a link, link maintenance frame, the management and its debug for a link, link termination mainframes, a termination for a link. What does link maintenance mean? As you can see, LCP can make a message on providing feedback and the link should test for it. The two keys are echo request, echo reply, and discard request. In these frames, the link must test. Code reject and protocol reject. In these frame types, it provides with a feedback when a single device is received with an invalid frame. As a packet, it will resend it while using the sending device. What are two options in negotiating IPCP? Compression. These devices are allowed to negotiate an algorithm which TCP and IPC headers are in compression and bandwidth should be saved. With a device, TCP/IP has been used by Van Jacobson. It is the reduction of the size of the TCP/IP headers with 3 bytes or less. IPv4 address. It allows the device in initiation to specify an IPv4 address on routing over the PPP link, or to make it requested with an IPv4 address for the responder. Keywords for the options to configure PPP. These options are authentication, the password authentication protocol, and challenge handshake authentication protocol are the choices to authenticate it. Also, exchange of authentication message are peer routers. Compression. Stacker and Predictor are the two protocols to compress in available Cisco routers. And it is the decompression in the frame at its destination. Error detection and identification for fault conditions. PPP callback and enhancement of security. Multi-link as an alternative is the provision of load balancing over the router interfaces which is used by PPP. What are those commands for PPP? The commands are encapsulation PPP for encapsulation, compress for compression, PPP quality for making a percentage number after the command. What are the steps to configure MPPP? Create a multi-link bundle. Assign interfaces to the multi-link bundle. Note: use any router to follow those commands. More commands. Show interfaces serial. Verification for proper configuration of HDLC or PPP encapsulation. Show PPP multi-link. Verification for enabling PPP multi-link on R3. PPP authentication PIP. Showing with the username and password are sent as an individual LCP data package. PPP authentication champ. Verification of the identity of the peer using a handshake in 3 ways. PPP authentication. A specification in the order in which the CHAP or PIP protocols, that is, the interfaces request. PPP, PIP send username, making a name for it. Password, creating a new password. Commands for troubleshooting PPP serial encapsulation. Debug, the way to troubleshoot and access from privileged exec mode of the command line interface. Debug PPP, a display of information about the PPP operation. Debug PPP packet, As good command, it is the used when troubleshooting serial interface capsulation. Debug PPP negotiation. To normalize negotiation is where both sides make an agreement on NTP parameters. Debug PPP error. Used to display protocol error and error statistics associated with PPP connection, negotiation, and operation. Commands and troubleshooting a PPP configuration with authentication. Show interface is serial. It is always the verification of configuration. Debug PPP authentication. It is authenticated for debugging PPP. Image for a list of new terms and commands. Discover the split list about new terms and commands. Number 2, branch connections. Meaning of cable system. It is the use with a coaxial cable that carries radio frequency signals across the network. As a coaxial cable, it is the main medium to build cable systems. What are those cable components? The components are cable modem termination system, CMTS, at the head end of the cable operator, cable modem, CM, on the subscriber end. Example of DSL, digital subscriber line. It is a providing fast connections over installed copper wires. Then it is a kind of connection to the internet that allows the time of transferring digital data over ordinary telephone lines at fast speed. Types of DSLs. Asymmetric DSL, ADSL. A transmission to downstream to the user and only a mere part for uploading information from the user. Symmetric DSL or SDSL. It operates over voice grade lines at 1.5 Mbps over one way or 768 kilobytes per second or kbps both ways, which is 8,000 feet over. What are those two important components? Transceiver. It can connect to a customer's equipment in many ways. So most residential installation uses USBs or 10 base C Ethernet connections. The SLAM or DSL access multiplexer. An access provider is the equipment that really allows to use the DSL grid. It takes connections from more than one customers and aggregates them onto a single high-capacity connection to the internet. Types of wireless connection. Municipal Wi-Fi. When it runs by a city or other municipality, it is a Wi-Fi hotspot. Cellular/mobile. A communication through nearby cell towers and radio waves are available through mobile phones. Satellite internet. This is processed to access the internet with the support of communication satellites. What are these three common terms in discussion of cellular/mobile networks? Wireless internet. This is a system in connection to that are free from wires or cables. 2G/3G/4G wireless, an evolution of the second, third, and fourth generations through wireless mobile devices. Long-term evolution. A wireless broadband standard for communicating with mobile phones and transferring data. The 6 factors in decision-making. Cable. It is shared by many users with a bandwidth. Upstream data rates is a decrease of speed with a high count of hours and overload of subscribing. DSL. Limited bandwidth is sensitive to distance and an upstream rate is merely small to downstream rate. Fiber to the home. A requirement to fiber installation directly to its own home. Cellular/mobile. Coverage is often an issue even within the SOHO, where there is relatively a bandwidth limit. Wi-Fi mesh. No mesh network deployed in most municipalities. If it is available and the SOHO is in range, then it is a viable setting. Satellite. Expensive, made of its capacity limit per subscriber, often provides access where no other access is possible. What does PPPoE mean? It stands for Point-to-Point Protocol over Ethernet in a combination of PPP. It is a typical run over broadband connections with the Ethernet link layer. The protocol layer protocol that allows to call users for connection into a network of hosts over a bridge or access concentrator. Commands for PPOE. The commands are interface dialer with a number, PPPoE enable, dialer pool, PPPoE client, show IP interface brief, show interface dialer, show PPPoE session, debug PPP negotiation, IP TCP adjust MSS, router BGP, neighbor, and network. What are three failures in PPoE troubleshooting? Failures are failure in the PPP negotiation process, failure in the PPP authentication process, failure to adjust the TCP maximum segment size. 4 failures in PPP negotiation. No response from the remote device, the ISP. Link control protocol not open. Authentication failure. IP control protocol, IPCP failure. 2 keywords in PPOE MTU, PPPoE MTU size. Maximum segment size. MSS. A biggest data payload which the device is acceptable from a network connection. Maximum transmission unit. MTU. A measurement which is the representation of the largest data packet that a network connected device will be acceptable for it. What is VPN all about? It stands for Virtual Private Network, and it describes the opportunity to establish a network connection with protection when using public networks. List of VPN benefits. Cost savings. An activation of organization to use cost-effective third-party internet transport to connect remote offices and remote users to the primary site. Therefore, it is the elimination of expensive dedicated WAN links and modem banks. Scalability. It activates organizations to use the internet infrastructure within ISPs and devices, which is simply to add new users. Compatibility with broadband technology. It allows mobile workers and telecommuters to take advantage of fast broadband connectivity, such as DSL and cable, to access to their organization's networks. Security. It is the inclusion of security mechanisms providing the highest level of security by using advanced encryption and authentication protocols, that is, the protection of data from unauthorized access. VPN types. Site-to-site VPNs. A reference to connect when setting up between multiple networks. Remote access VPNs. It is enabled for the users to connect to a private network remotely using a VPN node. VPN. It is a secure network which is a data exchange between sites/routers without passing traffic through an organization's virtual private network. VPN, server or router, located at its headquarters. What does GRE mean? This stands for Generic Routing Encapsulation. It is a protocol in encapsulating packets in sequence to route other protocols over IP networks. 2 types of BGPs. External BGP or eBGP. It is an implementation between BGP routers that are in different autonomous systems. Internal BGP or IBGP. It is an exterior routing protocol which creates to exchange routing information in the middle of routing domains. Image for a list of new terms and commands again. Again, discover the displayed list about new terms and commands. And finally, number 3, access control list. Access control lists. What does ACL mean? It is a set of rules which is the assignment to be granted in different levels of access to files and business critical information, and contains instructions that grant or deny access to certain digital environments. What is both inbound and outbound ACLs? It filters inbound ACL. It filters packets before they are routed to the outbound interface. Outbound ACL. It filters packets after being routed regardless of the inbound interface. 3 ways of 1 ACP per 1 ACL per protocol. It controls in each of the protocols that you may have configured on your router. 1 ACL per direction. It controls traffic in one direction at a time on an interface. one ACL per interface. It controls traffic from leaving the router through a specified interface. Image of port numbers. Refer to this image with a list of port numbers. Meaning of ACL packet filtering. This allows the device to have it permitted or rejected with packets matching ACL rules to control network traffic. IPv4 ACL types. Standard ACLs. It grants or denies traffic only from source IPv4 addresses. Extended ACLs. It filters packets with an increased height and a degree of specification. Numbered ACLs. It is used with a numeric code ranging from a 1 to 199 for standard ACLs and from 2000 to 26,999 for extended ACLs to refer to each ACL. Named ACLs. It is simple to manage and modify routing groups. What are a variety of factors? The extent of the network administrator's control. The ACL should be placed depending whether or not the network administrator has control both the source and destination network. Bandwidth of the networks involved. It filters unwanted traffic at the source and prevents transmitting of the traffic before it consumes bandwidths on the path to a destination. Ease of configuration. If a network wants to reject traffic coming from multiple networks, a single option is to use a single standard ACL on the router closest to the destination. What are those interfaces on R3? RT is 0/0/1 interface. It applies the standard ACL to avert traffic. R3G0/0 interface. It applies the standard ACL to make sure the traffic is reaching the exit. Another pair of interfaces. R1's S0/0/0 interface outbound. It is possible to apply an extended ACL outbound on the S0/0/0 interface. R1G0/1 interface inbound. It applies an extended ACL to traffic for the entrance of the G0/1 interface that defines that only packets from the 192.168.11.0/24 network are subject to ACL processing on R1. Image of standard ACL access list. Command syntax. Check for commands while seeing the syntax. Commands. R1 config parenthesis hashtag access list that can permit host 192.168.10.10.0.0.255. No access list 10, show access list, show running config, IP access group any number in/out. IP access list standard/extended. IP access group named in/out. More commands. R1 config hashtag access list 101 permit TCP any EQ question mark. R1 config hashtag access list 101 deny TCP 192.168.11.0 0.0.0.255 192.168.10.0 0.0.0.255 EQFTP. The same command include data. R1 config hashtag access list 101 permit IP any. Show access lists any node. How to edit an extended ACL. Method 1, text editor. With an ACL, copy and paste into the text editor where the changes are made. Method 2, sequence numbers. Numbers in sequence can use it to delete or insert an ACL statement. ACL logic types. Inbound ACL logic. Whether the packet is granted or denied, it must be specified by the matched statement. Outbound ACL logic. You have to make sure if the packet is routable or not. Also for outbound interface. 2 ACL decision processes. Standard ACL decision process. It is the examination in the source of IPv4 address. It is the destination of the packet and the parts involved are not considered. Extended ACL decision process. As an ACL, it first filters on the source's address and on the port and protocol of the source. It then should be filtered on the destination address, then on the port and protocol of destination, and makes a final decision either granted or denied. And the conclusion is, after discussing all the three topics during the presentation of the CORS project and data communications networking core, I am about to get the configurations ready, referring in the same topics using the Cisco Packet Tracer application. Thank you for presenting. All the very best, guys. Bye bye. Thank you very much.